additional pleasure, honor, is to introduce Ken Mehlman, whom I've loved since Jesus was a little boy. We all know he's always the smartest guy in the room, but unless you've really worked with him, it's so hard to really impress upon you how he's the best man in the room, the most integrity, the most honest, the most kind, the most thoughtful, the most convening, bringing people together. When Ken said he was going to do something, he would do it. If Ken said he was your friend, you could take that home. I am so privileged to know him, and in addition to all this stuff, which made me love him as from Jesus to perpetuity, I want to add another to the long list of admirable things about Ken Mehlman. You are so brave. I feel like I must have let you down as a friend, that we were not there for you to have to do what you had to do when you did it, the way you did it. We love you, we appreciate you, we are so proud of you. We are particularly proud of your financial prowess, and I hope in addition to whatever you're going to tell us tonight, it will include some financial tips to how to the economy. You are my hero.
Mary, that was ridiculously, absurdly too generous. And I was going to make a joke, which I now feel guilty making, but I'm still going to make. And the joke I was going to make is that I don't think Mary's politics ought to be suspect by her choice of spouse, but her taste ought to be. As Mary knows, I love James, and I've been to probably 100 parties at this house, and what would happen at the parties would be, everyone would be up here hanging out, and James and I would be downstairs watching television, drinking, smoking cigars, and talking about politics. And Mary is one of the greatest people I know. She's someone who is smart, she's someone who's creative. Mary has made conservatism cool. Yeah. And I'm 44 years old. I'm 44 years old, and here's the weird thing. Like, the old line was that Churchill said that if you're not, when you're a conservative, you're not young, you don't, if you're not a liberal when you're young, you don't have a heart, and if you're not a conservative when you're old, you don't have a head. And in my generation, you were heart and head conservative when you were growing up, because that's what Reagan did for us. Right. And since then, the best example I can think of appealing to the heart and the head, the cool and the financial, has been Mary. And she's always on television. She always makes the case in a way that appeals to people of all generations, all backgrounds. And so, Mary, saluting to you for your awesome work and your awesome example for the party. I did not expect to speak. I'll say a few things and then turn it over to the guys that really made this happen. If you think about it, 50 years ago, your politics were defined by arbitrary characteristics. So if you were Jewish, I'm Jewish, my grandparents were all Democrats. And if you were a WASP from the Midwest, you were a Republican. And if you were Catholic, you were a Democrat. And if you were Southern, you were a Democrat. You were defined by things that were given to you at birth. That was changed by two guys, in my opinion. Barry Goldwater and Ronald Reagan, who made politics defined by ideas. So if you believed in less government, lower taxes, a Second Amendment, a strong national defense, that in fact the Soviet Union was the evil empire, then you were a Republican. You were a conservative. And what's exciting to me about what GOProud is doing is there's one last place where there are people in our party that say you ought to be defined according to your political ideology by your birth. They no longer say it about religion, although they used to. They no longer say it about race. They no longer say it about anything else except the fact that a lot of us in this room were born gay. And it seems to me that if we want to continue the spirit of Ronald Reagan and the spirit of Barry Goldwater, and by the way, if we want to have any hope of having a majority in the future, the only way we will do that is to follow the tradition of what GOProud is doing, which is to say, we will define conservatism by what your mind tells you, not by arbitrary characteristics that you were born with that you can't help. And that's the great thing that GOProud is doing, in my opinion. And if you think about it, and I'm about to say it's somewhat controversial, but I'm going to say it. Two politicians in the 1970s got right the question of the Soviet Union. Ronald Reagan and Jesse Helms. One wanted to be the president. The other never won with more than 54% of the vote in the state of North Carolina, Senator Helms. And I think part of why that happened with Reagan, that didn't happen with Senator Helms, was that a lot of people felt like, whether it was the King holiday or whether it was all these different things, they put two and two and two together and they said, one of these guys loves everybody and happens to believe in conservative ideology, and one of these guys is a conservative because he doesn't like people that are different than he is. And in a world and in a country that is increasingly diverse and increasingly different, if we're seen as not liking Muslims, or not liking Hispanics, or not liking anybody, or not liking gays, we will be a minority party, and as I said when I was the chairman, and I wish I said it about gays, we will deserve to be. A party that's not welcoming, based on ideology, deserves to be a minority party. We deserve to be a majority party. These two guys are going to get us there. Please welcome the founders of GOProud.